The century mark. My name is Rose. I am 100 years old. People often come to me looking for some grand secret to a long life, expecting me to talk about vitamins or exercise. But the truth is much simpler and much more complicated than that. I have lived through 10 decades of change, but it took me every single one of those years to truly learn the hardest lesson of all. At 100, I finally understood what love really is. When I was 20, I thought love was a lightning bolt. I thought it was the way my heart raced when a certain boy walked into the room. I thought it was the grand gestures, the dancing until dawn, and the feeling of being swept off my feet. I didn't know then that lightning is beautiful, but it doesn't keep you warm when the winter comes. The fire of youth at 100. I finally understood what love really is. I married my first husband, Henry, in 1946. The world was celebrating the end of a long, dark war, and we were young and hungry for life. Our love was a fire. It was passionate, it was loud, and it burned very, very bright. We fought with the same intensity that we loved. I thought that the heat of our arguments was proof of how much we cared. I thought that if it didn't hurt a little, it wasn't real. But fire is a hungry thing. If you don't know how to tend it, it eventually burns everything down until there is nothing left but ash. The quiet midlife at 100. I finally understood what love really is. By the time I reached my 50s, the fire had settled into a steady hum. Henry was gone, and I had married David. David was a quiet man, a gardener who knew the name of every bird that visited our yard. Our love wasn't a lightning bolt or a wildfire. It was more like a comfortable chair. For a long time, I worried that I had settled. I missed the drama of my youth. I missed the highs and the lows. I thought love was supposed to be an adventure, not a routine of Sunday dinners and shared newspapers. I didn't realize that the routine was actually a fortress we were building against the world. The test of the shadows at 100. I finally understood what love really is. Then came the 1980s, and David got sick. For 5 years, my life was defined by hospital corridors, white coats, and the smell of antiseptic. This was the first time I saw the face of love when it wasn't wearing a smile. Love was changing bandages. Love was staying awake until 3 in the morning just to hear him breathe. Love was holding a hand that could no longer hold mine back. I realized that love isn't just about who you want to go to a party with. It's about who you want to be in the trenches with when the lights go out. The loneliness of the long-lived. At 100, I finally understood what love really is. After David passed, I spent a long time alone. I reached my 80s, then my 90s. My friends were mostly gone. My children were grandparents themselves. I sat in my house, and I looked at the photos of the men I had loved. I felt like a spectator in my own life. I began to wonder if love was something that only belonged to the young. I thought maybe I had used up my portion of it. I started to look back at my life like a book I had already finished reading, just waiting for someone to close the cover. The wisdom of the small things at 100. I finally understood what love really is. But then, something shifted in my 95th year. I was sitting on my porch, watching a young couple across the street. They were arguing over a grocery bag that had ripped. I saw the frustration in their faces, and then I saw the boy reach out and tuck a stray hair behind the girl's ear. It was such a tiny thing, a second of tenderness in the middle of a mess. And I realized that I had spent 80 years looking for love in the big moments, while it was actually hiding in the tiny ones. Love isn't the symphony. It's the single, quiet note held for a long time. The self-love revolution at 100. I finally understood what love really is. It took me nearly a century to realize that I had spent most of my life trying to be lovable for someone else. I wanted to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect friend. I was always looking in the mirror to see if I was still enough. At 98, I looked in the mirror and saw the roadmap of 100 years on my face. Every wrinkle was a story. Every spot was a season I had survived. And for the first time in my life, I truly loved the woman looking back at me. I realized that if you don't have a home inside yourself, you'll always be a beggar at someone else's door. The love of the stranger. At 100, I finally understood what love really is. I started to see love in places I had ignored before. I saw it in the way the postman waited for me to get to the door so I wouldn't have to bend down for the mail. I saw it in the way the neighbor's child drew a picture of a flower and left it on my step. We think of love as something that belongs to families or couples. But at 100, I see that love is the thread that holds the whole human fabric together. It's the kindness of strangers. It's the shared glance between two people on a bus. It's the oxygen of the soul. The forgiveness of the past at 100. I finally understood what love really is. I had to learn to love the versions of myself that I used to hate. The girl who made mistakes in the 40s. The woman who was too angry in the 70s. The mother who wasn't patient enough in the 50s. I realized that love is also a form of forgiveness. You can't truly love the present if you are still at war with your past. I had to go back and give a hug to every younger version of Rose. I told them, you did the best you could with what you knew. That was a deep, quiet kind of love. The beauty of the temporary at 100. I finally understood what love really is. When you are my age, you know that everything is temporary. People go. Seasons change. Even the mountains wear down. I used to think that love was supposed to be forever, and if it ended, it was a failure. Now I know that a love that lasts for a week is just as real as a love that lasts for 50 years. The value isn't in the duration. It's in the quality of the presence. A blooming flower isn't a failure just because it wilts. It was a success because it bloomed at all. The silence is not empty at 100. I finally understood what love really is. I spend a lot of time in silence now. My hearing isn't what it used to be, and the world feels a bit softer around the edges. I used to be afraid of the silence. I thought it meant I was forgotten. But now I find love in the silence. It's a peace that passes understanding. It's the feeling of being connected to everything that ever was and everything that ever will be. I'm not lonely. I'm just listening to the heartbeat of the world. The legacy of tenderness at 100. I finally understood what love really is. I look at my great-grandchildren now. They are so busy. They are chasing careers and followers and a perfect life. I want to tell them to slow down, but I know they won't. They have to live their own decades. But I try to show them. I show them by the way I listen. I show them by the way I don't judge. I want my legacy to be the feeling they get when they sit next to me. Not the money I leave behind, but the warmth of 100 years of distilled affection. The final mystery at 100. I finally understood what love really is. People ask if I'm afraid of what comes next. I tell them that if love is what brought me here, then love is what will take me home. I see it like a great river. We spend our lives trying to swim against the current, trying to control where we go. But at the end, you just let go of the oars. You let the water carry you. And the water is love. It always has been. It was the lightning bolt, and it was the quiet chair, and it was the hospital room, and it was the sunset. It was all the same thing. The full heart at 100. I finally understood what love really is. My name is Rose. I have walked this earth for 36,500 days. I have seen empires fall and technology change the face of the planet. But those are just the details. The story is love. It's always been the story. It's the only thing that remains when the lights go down. I am a century old, and my heart is fuller than it was when I was 20. Because now I don't just feel love. I understand it.